Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Committee Reads. I am your host KWCEs, and with me today I have GVR, Alex, Birdman, and Nagoda. And today we will be going over KWCE number 25, Godzilla, Shin vs. Rodan, Heisei, by Hilly Hulk. Less than an hour ago, the Japanese Self-Defense Force were scrambling to set up a plan to lure the roosting Rodan pair from Shinjuku to Narita in the hopes of dispelling a reawakened nightmare. The Rodans were first sighted on Rodan Island, having been birthed from the waste dump there, picking off whatever unlucky scavenger or explorer who set foot on the island. With Rodan deprived of sustainable nourishment, they took to the skies and found themselves a new home in the Shinjuku prefecture of Tokyo, where they preyed upon the evacuating civilians and those unfortunate enough not to see another day. And for the JSDF, the threat of the two Rodans was paltry compared to the dormant monster that lay not that far off. Godzilla, a monster also born of nuclear waste, was stirring from its forced hibernation. After the resounding success of Operation Yashiori, the aberration stood motionless as his body was forced to shut down to the coagulate circulating within. For well over a month after his initial rampage, he remained idle, yet still alive. Even after his failure to evolve and adapt, his amazing regenerative capabilities were fixing his wrecked body. As the effects of the coagulate wore off, his internal radar detected the presence of two other giants like himself. Perhaps, just for a moment longer, he would need to sustain this bulky form. With the Rodans and Godzilla within the vicinity of Tokyo, the threat of a thermonuclear warhead ready to drop on Tokyo, the JSDF initiated Operation Thunderbird. An F-2 fighter squadron soared overhead, bombarding the rest of the pterosaur titans. The resting pterosaur titans. Gosh darn it. This immediately caught the attention, and they quickly pursued them. In less than a minute, they were disposed of. Fortunately for those who perished, the supersonic monsters noticed the lumbering form of Godzilla beneath them. Pass.
For Japan, they did the best they could do. All that there was left to do was hope for the better. The male Rodan beelined for Godzilla, slamming himself into the giant mutant. Godzilla stood firm against his foe, but being pushed back, but not brought down as he pushed the giant dinosaur away. He counterattacked with a swing of his tail, but the male Rodan ducked under it before trying to blow it away to no avail. The female, meanwhile, circled her opponent as Godzilla tried to claw at her mate, while Rodan smacked him with his wings. Rodan anticipated another swing from Godzilla. He swerved for his next attack and blocked the oncoming attack, but it was only a feint, and he was too late to react by the time he realized it. Now Godzilla had the advantage as he chomped down on Rodan and forcefully slammed him against the ground, shattering the asphalt under him. The female Rodan dive-bombed after the nuclear leviathan, but Godzilla's radar picked up on the oncoming pteranodon. Purple light exuded from his body and fired atomic rays from its dorsal fins. The female Rodan maneuvered around them and slammed into Godzilla's head as soon as she was within range, causing it to stagger. The male quickly took the opportunity and slammed his wing against Godzilla's left ankle, toppling the titular titan on his back. The female landed on top of Godzilla's chest, and the male proceeded to get up and stomp on his face. They both clawed at Godzilla as he struggled to get them off, trying to bite the feet of the male to no avail. Seeing it was getting him nowhere, he attempted to slam his tail into the female's head, but she caught it between her beak and refused to let go. Finally, Godzilla was fed up after a minute of this and opened his mouth again. Thinking it was just another bite, the male was not prepared for the flames that would knock him down. Pass.
Birdman. Birdman, you're up.
Oh, but wait, I'm not. Am I? Oh, I thought it was.
Yeah,
Oh.
Kaiju GVR, Birdman, Nagoda, Alex.
So, hang on, forgot, where are we?
The female caught off guard by the beam attack. You get 4 paragraphs.
And Birdman's being as useless as ever.
Gosh darn.
The female cut off guard by the beam attack was sent flying off by atomic ray that followed. Now that he brushed off the pests, Godzilla stood up and pondered where he's going to strike next. The male was struggling to get up, squinting at his face and chest got burned, and his eyes were melted completely. The female, however, was outright unconscious, so she was who he aimed for. Rodan, wanting to help his mate, got to his feet clumsily and took flight to where he thought she landed, following the pheromone trace amidst the burnt charcoal. Godzilla, noticing the male trying to help his mate, fired another atomic ray with his tail. With no ability to see and being single-minded in his desire to help his mate, Rodan couldn't dodge the attack as it seared through one of his wings, burning it off. With the loss of his flight, he crashed to the female, painfully waking her up to the death of her mate, an incoming mutant. Enraged by her mate's fate, a strange aura began to envelop her. This phenomenon slowed Godzilla, as the monstrosity stood idly by to see what would transpired. Lightning and golden steel bathed around Tridon as the male gave his life for her. When both began to subside, the formerly pale colours became more vibrant. It seemed to have a rather minuscule alteration at first, but that soon quickly changed when Rodan saw a beam to Godzilla's face, carving into it. This was no mere palette swap, as Godzilla would soon learn. Had it not been for the flash protection membranes reacting in a timely manner, he certainly would have lost his eyes. Rodan took the skies out of Godzilla's reach as he fired another beam against its shoulder. Godzilla was enraged as it tried to swat her back down, but Rodan's speed was too much for him to catch up to. Now knowing that Godzilla was too dangerous to keep fighting up close, he kept his distance in the skies and pelting it with her new heat beam attacks. Godzilla could only try to take it down to no avail, his atomic rays missing every attempted strike. Utilizing her amazing speed, Rodan occasionally pulled Daredevil stuff to use her wings as razor blades. Combined with a lethal attack that could cut open Godzilla's skin, and material he thought to be nigh indestructible. Damages began to wear him down heavily as the assault went on for about 5 minutes, many cuts and gases covering the Kaiju. With Godzilla in his vulnerable state, Rodan went for another dive bomb against it, Pete looking to plant it down so he could finish it off. Rodan put all her strength into knocking it down, but Godzilla putting his remaining strength to pushing her back. Pass.
While his body was weak and staggered against Rodan, he was still able to muster whatever energy he had left to clamp on her tightly and slam her to the ground on her belly. Godzilla aimed to destroy the foe once and for all, but before he could, Rodan fired a heat beam into his neck. Flinching from a potentially fatal blow, Godzilla backed away from Rodan as she roared in pain. Rodan, however, only got a lucky shot as she was too dazed to take advantage, as to gather her wits together and keep fighting. Godzilla, however, was able to recover and strike back. Godzilla stomped on Rodan's head, keeping still as his tail constricted her right wing and pulled as hard as it could. Rodan struggled, but her position didn't allow her to provide much of a fight. Eventually, Godzilla ripped the wing right off, meeting a screeching and writhing Rodan. With her advantage gone, Godzilla let her go and kicked her in the temple, her back now facing the ground. Godzilla wrapped his tail around her legs, keeping her from moving as he lifted her up and slammed her against the ground multiple ruthless times before throwing Rodan away into a series of nearby skyscrapers. The toss left her dazed as she finally hit the ground, skating across before she stopped after hitting a few more small buildings. Rodan fired more heat beams as she tried to push through the dizziness. Godzilla braced himself for the heat beams as she charged at the monster. While not very fast, it was still fast enough for Rodan to need to back up. Not being as fast on the ground as she was in the air, the heat beams weren't enough to keep it at bay for long. You want me to pass?
Pass.
Yeah,
Pass.
Once in range, Godzilla bit down hard on her other wing, causing her to screech in pain. She pecked at Godzilla with all her might while also struggling to get Godzilla off her. The radioactive monstrosity was too strong for her to stop it from ripping the other wing off. Rodan was defenseless at this point as Godzilla went for one last atomic ray. She refused to die as she fired back. The beams clashed, leading to a massive explosion. The Japanese looked at the results of Operation Thunderbird in dismay. Godzilla definitely was tested to its limit, but was too much for the Rodans to handle. They could only accept the payload and charge it Chagrin as the plane holding it headed toward it. Godzilla, unable to fight any longer, roared in defiance at the incoming plane. The plane dropped its load right onto it, with a second and bigger explosion engulfing him with the rest of Narita. The initial EMP blackout was cause for concern, though power in the outermost rim of the bomb returned, with the flames finally quelling. The JSDF deployed unmanned drones to survey the impact zone. The results were unprecedented, although the mere force of the warhead was enough to eviscerate the female Rodan. Godzilla stood tall. It undisputedly injured it terribly, but still alive nonetheless. All hope was lost for Japan and possibly the world along with it, as the revived nightmare cried out for humanity's bloodshed. Winner, Shin Godzilla.
Alright. If there's anything I do remember for this match, and it took me a little bit, I was like, there was something about this match that was, just rung out to me. It was the fact that the opening was far longer. Like, a page and a half long. It was like, that, it felt unneeded because it felt, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was getting to the point fast enough. So I pretty much, I think, just condensed it down to, those first, 4 or 5 paragraphs. Or first 4 or 5 indentations. Because it was just kind of unnecessarily long and kind of dragged the whole thing out. When it's like, you could just simplify all of this and get right to it. So, nevertheless, though, I think that...
How dare you change this writer's artistic vision?
How could I, for the sake of a better paced match? How could I? What kind of monster am I? Nevertheless, though, once the monster fighting got going, it's solid stuff. 2 Rodans fighting against Godzilla for the fate of Japan. That's interesting. And then I like the ending. That's it's like, oh, the Rodans didn't work. Drop the payload. That didn't work. It was like, uh-oh. It's like, humanity is pretty boned in this particular story. But you know what? It is interesting. I like it. So, nothing too crazy to say aside from what I said about the weirdly structured opening sequence that it was originally there. It was, it just went on a little too long. It went on a little too long in such a way where it didn't really, didn't strike me as like a meaningful sense of, oh, this is worthy of being as long as it was. It just felt like padding. And I was like, okay, cut it out. Nevertheless, that's about it. So, going down the list, GVR, what'd you think of it?
It was fine. I don't really have a lot to say. The fight was fine. That's it.
Alright, Alex, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, it was okay. Standard match. Not much really I can say.
Alright, Birdman, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I prefer simple match to just kind of feel a bit repetitive in areas. Length, I think it's probably the best that it's got, but it's short. I can't actually recall this is Hulk's first match enough. I'm not really familiar with his work or not, but I think when I first read it, I did kind of skip through it a bit, so I haven't really had the chance to get my full thoughts in it. It's alright, it's not great.
Alright. And, Nagoda, what'd you think of it?
It was okay. How the Rodans sacrificed the other Rodans into a fire Rodan. There was a lot of cutting off of wings.
Alright, for the silence, I'll say that'll probably be it. And with that said, this has been KWCE number 25, the second match of Shintember. And we'll see you guys next time for the third match of Shintember. In the meantime, take care, everyone.
Bye.